Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to Tech Klinik. Tech Klinik is one of Tower Africa's learning series where we basically just talk and learn about tech. Now, you don't really have to be tech savvy or you don't really have to be into tech for you to know about tech. If I can remember from last year in one of our sessions, we clearly learned that tech is applicable and relevant in every sector. So whether you are in the academic, whether you are in industry, whatever area you specialize in, you need tech because as much as we know, technology is improving and then there are so many areas of tech which you have to go into. All right, so today to start with, I like to say that this is the first edition of in 2024. This is our very first edition, and Tech Klinik is usually dedicated to the month of June. So in the month of June, we usually have our Tech Klinik. And then we are excited for this first edition. And then if you've joined us, we'd like for you to just introduce yourself in the comment section. You can also share the link so your friends could be part of this session. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the psychology of UI and UX design with Zipeta Nabwala. And she's going to be joining us shortly. So if you've just joined us, please tell me your name in the comment section. I'll be waiting to hear from you. Okay, so while we wait for our guests, you can also tell us your expectations from Tech Klinik. What would you like to learn? What do you want to gain? What knowledge do you want to gain at the end of Tech Klinik? Like I said earlier, if you have joined this session, please kindly drop your name and where you are joining us from, and we'll be glad to welcome you. Hi, Jenny. Jenny is joining us from Nigeria. You are welcome, Jenny. And to every other person who has joined this session, please kindly share the link. Share the link on your status. Share the link with your friends so that they could be part of this experience also. All right. In my intro, I mentioned that you don't have to really be in tech for you to be in tech or for you to learn about tech. And there are so many other areas which you can venture into that, although they don't look techy, but they are still tech. Talk about the likes of digital marketing, content creating. I know when you hear about tech, we want to think about designs, the UI and UX, that's user interface and user experience. We want to think about coding. No, it's not always that. It's not always that. Even in the medical sector, we've come to learn that tech exists. So it therefore depends on how you channel it. For example, with the introduction of AI and the improvements in AI, you can begin to see that there are a lot of modalities in the applications of tech. So it doesn't just have to be about coding. And I think tech should be um, one of the areas we should begin to focus on and we should begin to get more interested about. Because when we talk about the future of work, you will agree with me that there are a lot of areas, there are a lot of areas that over time we discover that tech is going to replace the individuals working there. I'm not just talking about robots or AI, but the fact that because of technology, there's a lot of changes that has been made, there are a lot of improvement, and then you see how automations happen for that. Instead of you to do some strenuous work, you just automate it on a machine and then it just goes that way. So I think tech is something everybody living in this century should venture into. Even if you're not going deeply into tech, I advise that you find a part of tech that aligns with you. Now, this is where passion comes in. You find a part of tech that aligns with you. If you love writing, maybe you could consider content writing, you could consider copywriting, and then find a way to digitalize it, right? If you love designs, then you could go into design. And then if you're more mathematically inclined, then you can begin to go for the coding, the user interface, website design, and all of that. But really, tech is one area that everybody should venture into, so that you don't wake up one day and you discover that tech has replaced everything you're supposed to do, and then you're virtually left with nothing. All right. We believe our guests will be joining us soon, but before that, if you have any prepared questions already, you can just drop it for us, and then also remember to drop your name and where you're joining us from. Okay. Hi, everyone. Are you still here with me? We're so sorry for the delay. I think our guest is here. Hi, Zipeta. Can you hear me?
You guys can hear me.
Hi, Zipeta. Good evening and
Good
welcome.
evening.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you,
yeah,
Chidima, for the opportunity.
you're welcome. We can't see you.
Sorry, I'm kind of in a corner, but let me look for a better view.
Right, that's fine. While we do that, while you do that, we can just carry on. All right. So first of all, we like to meet you. Let's know who Zipeta is. Let's know how you best like to be introduced.
Hello, can you see me? Or I'm still in
Yeah,
the dark.
we can see you. It's fine as long as we can see you. All right. So I
Oh,
was saying that we would like to meet you and then get to know you.
okay. Yeah, my name is Zipeta Nabwala. I do work with the deaf. Mostly I use UX and UI design and tech to actually enable them to have equitable opportunities and as well as creating sign language awareness in society. So that is what I mostly do here in Kenya, but I also like to venture with different countries to learn more about their perspectives on the deaf communities and how they are able to engage with them in terms of creation of opportunities for the disabled. And also, part time, I do love art. I love traveling a lot, and roughly, that is who Zipeta is. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
That's nice. So nice to meet you. Welcome to Tech Clinic.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you once again for the opportunity. Yeah.
You're welcome. So without further ado, psychology of UI UX design. Let's get into it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the first time I came across that topic, actually, yeah, it never occurred to me like, indeed, there could be a creative aspect of this in terms of how do people view UX and UI design other than just tech. So mostly I use culture. Yeah, I do manage like how to be able to put my point across out there, especially when handling challenges with the deaf. They're the ones who gave me the inspiration to use UX and UI design in coming up with solutions that are tailor based for them. Since they are mostly visual people, I am into art and design, and so through art, yeah, and through also creatives and culture as well. That's where mostly UX and UI design actually aids in terms of putting the point out there and enabling most people, especially the disabled, to be in the same space as everyone else without feeling left out. We are mostly visual. So in terms of branding, uh, product product design and management, that is where the UX and UI plays a key role in it. So for someone who definitely wants to venture into UX and UI design, I'll probably say you first start with the target market, like who are your people? And if indeed you're into design and art, that this will be the best space for you because you don't have to express much in words, but mostly in terms of painting or your graphics, it tells a lot about what you do and how you brand yourself out there. Yeah. So I'll definitely maybe hand over this to you, Chidima. Any question, and then we can be able to take it from there and as well as from the audience. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So we just want to know about UX and UI, basically because there are a lot of us that are not really tech savvy. We want to
Mm,
get that explanation for you such that someone who is not into tech can understand the basic concept of UI and UX, should in case they want to venture into this part of tech, so they could know what to do. All right, so let's just start from the basics. What is UI and UX all about?
okay. So UI and UX, like let me start with UX. Actually, its full meaning it's called user experience. Yeah, so for most cases, I'll give a simple example whereby you come across a website and you find that either the look does not really, it's not too appealing in terms of either its lighting or the types of components that are kept there, like say the button is not working. So for user experience, that's where maybe a user researcher comes in, whereby they're able to actually test the types of websites and apps that are being uploaded out there and try to give recommendations to developers on how best they can be able to tailor their applications and their websites to fit certain devices or certain users. Okay. So whereas for UI design, that's for user experience mostly, that is when now someone gets to have the feel of how the website is actually being able to be applied. For instance, if you're able to browse a certain website and it takes time to load for it to display, so user experience design experts come in to at least aid in terms of reducing the number of components or maybe the types of the information that is being displayed on the website so that it can be easier for the website to actually work or a certain website. So, for instance, the way you mentioned that it doesn't require for someone to be tech savvy, that is actually true. Because for someone to actually build the platforms using UX and UI, you only need drag and drop platforms like Figma and also Canva. Yeah, mostly you're just designing the outward appearance of a website. You don't go in depth and like a developer or a software developer who actually do both the front end part where people can be able to see what you're doing and its databases. Yeah. So actually, for someone who's starting UX and UI design, you might as well just begin from designing basic things, especially with platforms like Canva, where you can be able to get the inspos. There's Canva, there's Dribble, is Behance. They mostly designers do upload most of their designs there. You can get the inspos on how to be able to come up with several components that you can help you to build a website or even a simple poster. It starts from there. And also try to engage your audience. Yeah, engage your audience a lot because you might design something that to some, the user does not even need to use all the components that you place there. By components, I mean buttons, I mean, even the wordings or the photos that you've kept there, like they wouldn't even need some of the things. So you actually have to work with the user at this point for you to come up with the right product that is best suited for them. Yeah. And other than designing, there's also prototyping, whereby you just sketch something, like especially when you're engaging with the user, you're able to sketch or come up with a rough idea of how the application should look like. So for such platforms, there are free platforms called Balsamic. Yeah, there's Balsamic, there's also Sketch. They're very good platforms that can actually aid you in terms of drawing, just coming up with the drawings of how basically the website or the application should look like at the end. Yeah. So for most instances, that is roughly the work of a UX and UI designer, if so put it that way. Yeah, basically it.
Oh, all right. So you talked about visuals and
Okay.
about user interface being visuals, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so does that basically mean that in every, because for instance, if we have a hospital or we have a school, they need to put out something on the internet. Does it mean that basically anybody can function or can go into UI and UX irrespective of the sector where they are?
Yes, yes, yes. Actually, it is very possible. In as much as I'm also a techie, I mean, I have a background experience in development, but I ventured more on design because it's something that I'm really interested in. Anything to do with art and design. It's not just me, any other person without any prior background or prior experience in tech can actually venture into this particular field. That's why I mentioned some of the platforms like Balsamic, even Photoshop itself. You can use Photoshop to even come up with a prototype of how your website should look like because it's mostly about the feel and the appearance. Yeah, it does not include coding or any other, technical aspects of it. It is a very nice and humble background for someone who's actually trying to venture into the field of UX and UI design. This is the best, actually, yeah, that I would say so far. For someone who's really into designing, anyone can join in. Because I look at, especially with Photoshop, most people do are able to actually portray their ideas easier when it is visually based, and other than when they're actually coding it. Yeah, and it takes less time to come up with something. For someone who's even trying to start or trying to earn a living, and you're really good in design, I would say UX and UI is the best option to begin with. And for schools and hospitals, you only look at the problem that they have in mind. You don't have to look at the entire system of how it actually should work, but it's mostly displaying the services that they're offering. You're only just marketing someone's work. That's what UX and UI does. Yeah.
All right. So there's a question in my mind, and I believe some persons will also be asking this question. So, what's the
Okay.
difference between a graphic designer and someone who is into UI and UX? Are they the same thing, or is it just the name that is different, or are there a higher
Uh,
level?
no, no, no. There's no higher level. Only that for graphic designers, they do tailor a certain, like a portion of how a system should work. They would even
Mm.
maybe focus on a photo only a photo. That is the work of a graphic designer. Yeah. But for a UX and UI designer, you're now actually portraying a system of how it should work, an entire system, like, or even an entire website. But do graphic designers as well are sometimes being confused with a UX and UI designer, because the things they're able to actually do, like in terms of designing a photo and as well as a website, they can actually do both. But there is a slight difference, because a UX graphic designer normally focuses on specific elements, but for a UX and UI designer, focuses on the user journey. Like, you come up with a roadmap of how this user will be able to interact with the website. Then you move to sketching, then finally to designing. Yeah, there's a slight difference, but they have a lot of similarities in terms of designing their work. Yeah, especially when it comes to designing, that's where the similarity comes in. But the difference is where now the user map journey and the sketching for a UX and UI designer is more detailed as compared to a graphic designer. Yeah.
All right. So I know you've mentioned some tools and softwares for a UI and UX, but I just want you to let this session, just this part of the session, be for you to list out the software, should in case any of our viewers is interested. So we just like to get the softwares and tools, at least for a starter, someone who wants to start from the basics. So let's get that.
Oh, okay. So, like I mentioned, that there is a journey process that is involved. So, majorly when it comes to sketching, there are free tools, but some are paid, but some are free. I'll start with the paid one that's called Balsamic. It's actually the best when it comes to sketching and even having to be able to draw an overview of how your mobile app should work. You can start with that actually. Balsamic is normally the best. Then you can go to Sketch, and there is Protopie. Yeah, for those three. Then we're now moving to designing of the application to make it now look more realistic. Protopie is also the best because it translates now your sketch to an actual mock-up. By a mock-up, I mean it just like creates a virtual reality of how the website or an application would look like. Yeah, so you can use Protopie, and you can also use now Canva is also good because you can be able to see how the overlay or the layout of how a website should look like. Canva is very good. It's actually free. You can use that for a start as well. Yeah. And finally, yeah, you can also use Photoshop. Yeah, you can also learn how to use Photoshop, because with Photoshop, you can be able to easily design, even if it's just a logo of the website, and as well as now creating the structure, because it has the very nice layouts, like either in portrait or in landscape form. Yeah, these are some of the platforms that I normally use. There are some others that people do use, but mostly for animations. But since you're not animating anything, yeah, I would rather like start with those ones, basic ones, basically. Yeah. And the best thing with Balsamic is that it can be used as both mobile and web application. Yeah, someone can actually design it using their phone. That's what I love about Balsamic, and like most of the other platforms that I've mentioned. Yeah, for a start, yes.
All right. So at this juncture, I like to say that if our audience have questions, please, audience, you can drop your questions in the comments and she'll take them. Now, Zipeta, in your introduction, you talked about how you were channeling your UX and UX design to this. You mentioned disabled people, right?
Yes, yes,
Now,
yes, yes.
I'm quite inquisitive. How does that work? How do you do it? How did it come about?
Well, it came about, first of all, I had a language barrier with a deaf person. I've never met a deaf person before until around 3, 4 years back. And it was in a very funny scenario whereby I was in a hotel and this person needed help. I didn't know how to communicate with the person, although I was so much intrigued. So when I got to a moment whereby I had to write down with a napkin, and I realized even the wordings, the sentence structure was quite different. This person really intrigued me, and she mentioned, actually it was a she. She started engaging with me further, telling me how much she was really interested in tech. She's been looking for a job, didn't even know how to write a resume, but for some reason she is also someone who was very sharp. Like when you mention something or when I try to highlight some of the things or some of the aspects of technology, she was very fast at grasping it. And so from there I chose to actually venture with the deaf. I tried to learn ways on how best I could be able to communicate with them. Since I didn't know sign language back then, I realized that they're visual people. So that's where the aspect of art came in, and design. I started using even posters and the Balsamic platform that I mentioned to help train them on how to build a website or even mobile application, which was even super easier because I saw that there was huge impact as compared to now when using coding to train them. But I really like that 3, 4 years down the line, people have been able to come up with platforms and better ways on how to be able to train now deaf persons on technology. That is what I'm currently learning on how best I can be able to relay that information to them. But I'm always I'm always trying to find those low code, no code platforms. They're called as such because they don't require coding. There's also a platform called Bubble. Yeah, that aids someone to be able to learn how to create a website but using a certain programming language called JavaScript. That's a story for another day. Yeah, from there, I've been able to find platforms that do not require coding, but can aid me in teaching the deaf people on technology. Yeah, that's what really sparked my interest on UX and UI design. And that's what I've been venturing all through till date. Yeah,
Wow. This goes a long way to show how anything can just be an inspiration, just anything.
exactly,
You know what
exactly.
is being said about there is a lot of problem in the world, just find one and solve it, and that is how impact is made. Wow. All right, so moving away from what you do now, I want you to tell us about like how one can measure success. Not really success per se, but for someone who is starting out as a UI and UX designer, what are the things you should see, or what are the things you should hear from your customers or your clients for you to know that yeah, you're doing well, and you get what I mean.
Yes, yes. Well, there's no secret ingredient to this, but it's mostly the engagement. Like for instance, if you come across a user, considering the way nowadays there's so many platforms that are existent, try and find one that actually you find it as a pain point, whereby you come across a website like a simple website, say someone's restaurant, a friend's restaurant, and you check out their website, try and see, okay, does this load well, or how do you feel about this, and then try now and engage with the person who owns the website. For instance, they tell you the pain points. Make sure that the person that you're engaging with, you're able to work with that person side by side in actually solving the problem, than more than creating more problems. Instead of just reaching out to them, like, yes, you're selling your services, but most people don't want to like pay for it unless they get to actually experience the packaging that you're offering. So it has to start with research, and the engagement. Yeah, you can also find that you have created something that is so good, but you have not identified the type of solution that you're offering, because you don't have to be all over the place. You can start by focusing on one journey, one thing at a time. If it is healthcare, try and find out which area in healthcare exactly that are you working on, or are you working with, who are your target audience. You can start small, but make sure your vision is big, and then give yourself time period. For instance, if you're starting like this year, it's about healthcare, focus on that until you make sure that you've perfected it. And while you're growing at it, make sure you're adding value, like there's impact. There are people who are actually learning from you, they're benefiting from you, as a UX and UI designer. You can think big, but make sure you are able to like subdivide your goals. Make sure you have goals for you. Make realistic goals. You can't say that you want to impact even the entire country, or you want to be a multimillionaire in less than 6 months or even 1 year. For some, it is possible, but no, just make it realistic. Don't even go too hard without doing research. You really have to identify who your target audience are. And mostly the how I actually rate my success is based on impact. Oh, and user engagement as well. Whereby if you are able to tailor something that most people are ever engaged, like whenever you're just checking the analytics of your website, working with those analytic tools like Google Analytics, your website is constantly being like there's involvement, there's feedback. People want to linger around your platform, they want to linger around your apps. How many number of people are downloading your apps? That is what I actually consider as success, and the feedback that you're being given, and how also the UX and UI designer is able to take criticisms and handle them in a very much professional way. There are those who are very good designers, but they don't know how to handle their clients. They don't know how to deal with feedback. We're all human, but at the same time, we should learn how to deal with criticism and feedback as well. And also from there, you can be able to now set your value, like even if it's in terms of pricing, because as time goes by, you cannot remain on the same level. Price your things in a way, price your services in a way that it is very much comfortable for you and the clients at the same time. Yeah. So you ought to just think big but start small, and with achievable goals for with a certain period of time. Set milestones that you can be able to see, okay, at this point I've really achieved something. These are the number of clients that I've still maintained. Sometimes you can be able to reach out to so many people, but you end up maintaining one or two clients who will skyrocket your business. So that is what really matters as well. Yeah, it matters a lot.
Wow.
Exactly.
So, talking about starting, you mentioned that the first and important thing to do is to find your target audience. Who do you
Exactly.
want to reach out to before the other modalities? All right. Give yourself time, find your target audience, set your values. One of the goals of Tech Clinic is to really break tech down for our community
Mhm.
members and anyone who is watching. And one thing about UI and UX, before when I hear UI and UX, I think of it as something big. In fact, at some point I thought it was a programming language because it looks like
No.
a programming language. So now I'm getting to understand better that it is more about visuals and then user experience, what your users feel. I want
Exactly.
to ask a question.
Yes.
Does it is it somehow related to content creating? Mhm.
Yes. Yes, it is somewhat related to content
The way
creating.
people post videos, they make videos, not just pictures now, videos and the
Mm-hmm.
rest. It's related to it, and then how does it relate?
Okay, it relates with the way in terms of branding actually. Other than visuals, there's branding. Because if you are able to now sell videos with low quality, it also tells a lot. With low quality pixels, it tells a lot about you. So because when you're actually creating a platform, you're also branding yourself, because you are able to see the type of colors that even someone is using. There are people who are very sensitive. There are users who are very sensitive to certain lighting. And as well as for content creating, there are people who have like there are also those censored videos. You can't just post any video. They all have their own rules, but somewhat they're actually related. Only that there is a huge difference in that as well, because now with content creation, you don't have to like work with the user, tell them, okay, what video do I want to watch? Unless you have to work with the board, the film board, just so that you can be able to post the right videos. But with the UX and UI designer, there's so much that is involved. There's the user journey that is involved, because you'll have to create the first draft when you're sketching with the user, and then now create the design, whereby now the user will tell you, okay, this is too much, remove this, add that. Then there is a final one that you'll actually be able to have like a virtual reality of how the design should look like, now the mock-up itself, so that the user can tell you, okay, this is what we'll work with, or work on the colors, change this area and that area. Yeah, that is the actually the only difference that is involved with content creating.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think this is where the psychology now comes in, because, like you
Mhm.
said, you can't know what your user will want or will appreciate.
Exactly.
So, how
Exactly.
can you, as a UI UX designer, how can you even come up with? How do you even get that idea of the right thing to do? How do you study them? How do you get the psychology to know this is what I should put out? This is the color I should use. Are there some basics you can give us
Uh,
at least to start us?
okay. So now, when I said that you engage with the user, you first create a first draft. You don't tell them this
Okay.
is the final product. Okay. You first create a first, like just a simple design. Yeah, because there's something, I think there's a word I'm trying to remember. I think something to do with brick and mortar. First, you use some resources that are actually going to save you money, because even for a designer to be able to actually give their pricing, you don't want to waste the user's energy and the resources. So you come up with the first draft and then you show them, okay, is this what you wanted? Which color do you prefer? Or what problem are you solving? Has it solved your entire problem? What can we add on and what to remove? You engage with the first draft, because I cannot, as a designer, I cannot just come up with the colors that I want. But I can
Yeah.
even use also my initial projects to be able to show the user, like trying to sell my experience to them, or trying to sell my service to them and show them this is the work, some of the work that I've done. Yeah, so from there is a user who can even say, okay, I love the one that you did initially, but can you try and repeat this and tailor it to look something different? They're the ones who give you the answers. You don't have to come up with anything from scratch. That's another good thing about being a UX and UI designer. You don't come up with anything from scratch, because most of the things that we have today have been done before. We are just
Yeah.
improving on them. Yeah.
Define them. That's true.
Exactly. We are just improving on them, refining them each and every day. Despite even the AIs that are existent, they're not here to replace us actually. They're just here to help us
Help us.
to do our work even easier. Yeah. Because for some reason people actually thought that okay, AI will solve everything and we'll lose jobs. But no, come to think of it, it comes from the creativity of someone, because there was even a case with another AI whereby it was generating someone else's content, the exact content. You see, so that is, yeah, that is why we, as the humans, and or even a UX and UI designer, you have a lot of advantage with you, because you are the one who's very creative. You even look at other people's work, and that's where you get the inspo from. Yeah, you don't really have to start anything from scratch. Yeah, that's
Okay.
how where the psychology applies from. Yeah, that's why I mentioned platforms like Behance and Dribble. They do have wonderful. Like if you look at the kind of work people have done there, you will actually get the inspiration that you need for the solution that you're trying to offer as a designer, especially who's even starting. That is the right place to start for you if you're looking for inspiration.
All right. Okay. So now let's talk about people that want to go into UI and UX designs, and they
Okay.
wish to train. Like for someone like me, no prior experience. I don't even. I don't have an experience. So let's say I want to train. What platforms can you recommend, or what would you recommend for someone who wants to learn or who wants to go into this part of tech?
Okay. Some of the platforms I'd say I normally use two, generally speaking. I do use YouTube, whereby I look for UX and UI design videos. And there's also a platform called Foundation. Yeah, there's one called Foundation. Oh, and there's another one called Interactive Design. Yeah. With these three platforms, I would say that they have been the best so far. And then now to mention there's Coursera and Udemy, but start with those
Yeah.
three. Exactly. So with YouTube, you can just type the word UX and UI design, and it will give you the actual. When you filter, focus on the ones on this year to at most 2 years back, not
Mm.
way backwards. Yeah, 2 years back. Up to that, you'll get the best courses so far, other than paying up too much for 1 hour. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. All
Yes.
right, viewers, we've been talking to Zipeta Nabwala, and she has been educating and teaching us about the psychology of UI and UX design. She's spoken to us so much about this aspect of tech. And one key thing she has mentioned is that you don't really need much to start. If you have your
Mm.
cell phone, you have the basic apps, and she mentioned like Photoshop, Canva. I think she said biosemic, yeah.
Balsamic. Yes.
Biosemic, yeah. So if you have these tools and then you want to train, of course there are a lot of free courses these days. YouTube is one place to learn so many free things. And she has also mentioned that getting your target audience is very key before you go
Mm-hmm.
on to set goals and the rest. And then one other key thing she has talked about is that you need to interact with your users. You cannot know what is on their head. You cannot know what they really want. So by that, she talked about creating a first draft and then showing it to your users and then interacting with them and getting to know what they want. All right, so we are expecting questions, but while we are, I will go on to give the mic back to Rebecca to give us her last words. If there are any general advice you have for persons who would want to venture into UI and UX based on experience and how it's been for
Mm-hmm.
you.
Okay, so my experience is that first things first, if you have an idea, first do research. Yeah, do a lot of research, especially on the previous. Check out or try to even follow the best designers on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Look at their work. Some of them even post their story or their journey of how they've been working on a certain project. You can also learn from there how to be able to also come up with your own project. At the same time as well, when you have an idea, look for people whom you can also trust. For designers, I really assume that they are very creative people. And if you happen to tell someone who has resources, and you have to actually establish trust for you to share certain idea, because I remember there was an instance when I shared an idea, hoping that I'll get feedback, but it turns out that I was the one who, yeah, ended up to be played in the process. So try and establish trust with the right people. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and take time to learn from people, build on your skills, give yourself time. If you have an idea, try and research, take your time to actually work on it, build all the try and create all the drafts regarding that idea until by the time you're able to show a user, you're able to show the expertise of your side, not just the learning side alone, but also the expert side of you. Like if it is you've stumbled upon a problem, give yourself even a month or two. When UX and UI is not that technical, so even a month is the best. Work on it, try and yeah, design it until you come up with something that is actually tangible for you to show a user or the target audience that you have in mind. Involve even developers as well, so that they can tell you that when it comes to now even designing or developing now your system, it doesn't have to be too complex whereby someone will consume a lot of time when designing the solution. Because another mistake that I noticed with us designers is that we do put a lot of components, like say photos or even animations, too much animations, without realizing that there is also some technicalities that comes with it. So when you're putting the
Yeah.
pressure to a developer with a certain period that you think the same period that you use is the same one that a developer would use, that's a no. Just make sure that you try and make something that is minimalistic and also stylish and very creative, and is able to communicate and address the problem that is at hand. Yeah. That is what I can be able to urge most users. And also take time to learn every single day, every single day. Like I have taken, if you've noticed, even in my pages, I've taken almost a year or two, just a year gap to try and perfect on my skills, so that by the time I'm coming back, I'm ready. Like I
Doing
know
better.
what to work on. Yeah, and I've become even better and better. Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Zipeta. We've been talking to Zipeta Nabwala all the way from Kenya. She's a UI and UX designer, and she has just done justice to this topic. And on behalf of our community members, we want to say a very big thank you for honoring our invitation and being available for this session. I have learnt, and I know our community members have learnt. Thank you so much, Zipeta.
Okay.
It's nice having you
Thank you
in Tech.
too. Thank
All
you
right.
so much. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, I don't mind a question or two from the audience. If there's none, I also appreciate the time that I've been able to share with you guys. I feel so good getting to know that there are people who want to venture in this field, and I can't wait to meet most of you out there and get to see what you're working on. Yeah, and I don't mind also sharing advice or
Thank you.
two. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we wish you a lovely weekend and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. So thank you everyone who has joined us for this session. This, like I said earlier, is our first edition of Tech Clinic. Our second session will be on Sunday, and it's going to be by 7 p.m. We are going to be having another tech specialist who will be talking to us about another aspect of tech. You really don't want to miss that session. So let's plan, let's set our schedules for Sunday, 7 p.m. Until then, when I come your way next time, my name is Chidima and I am your moderator. Bye and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.